to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ebro in the Morning. Laura Stiles. Rosenberg's on assignment dealing with some family stuff. And we have Roland Martin on the program. Give it up for Roland.
Hey, what's going
Martin.
on? What's
White
happening?
Fear is the new book. One of my favorite books right now. Because this is a topic we cover often on the program.
Right.
Which is racist white folks and American society in general being afraid of what you call the browning of America. Some people call the tanning of America, but it's really just the growth in population of black and brown folks in our society.
And I actually don't call them racist. And here's why I don't. Because the problem with that is when you have this debate, and this has gone on for years. I used to drive me crazy on CNN whenever it will come up. So when we say racist, what then happens is the debate then becomes racist, non-racist.
That's right.
When actually most of all of our problems are actually all in between. There are very few people you will run into who will say, "Oh, absolutely, I'm a racist."
That's right.
And so
it's the pervasiveness of
really
white supremacy.
It's that, and it's even the people who don't even understand white supremacy, who don't believe in white supremacy, but who don't realize that their stereotypes, their perceptions, their perspective, what is actually rooted in. Right. And that's why I say this is not defined by conservatives or liberals. There are individuals who have white fear who are progressive or liberal. Because they are cloaked in whiteness. And what people have to understand is
Latinos that have it too.
Absolutely.
There's black folks that have it too.
Because you have white Hispanics. And in fact, what you're seeing is the stats even show what happens is those who are white Hispanics, literally when they come to the United States, look, a decision is made, which way am I going to roll? Look, I'm born and raised in Texas. I've been dealing with white Hispanics for a very long time. And they will identify more as white than Latino when needed. And so even though by 2043, we will be a nation that's majority people of color, whites will make up 47%, the issue you still have is, okay, then how will white Hispanics begin to operate and begin to think? I just saw a story just the other day that even said that within the what's happening even in prisons, you're seeing the numbers where white Hispanics are having similar stats as whites as opposed to dark-skinned Latinos or African Americans. So we have to unpack the reality of white supremacy, even how it was exported in the United States to other countries, and how when folks come here, they bring that perspective with them.
And it's Eurocentricity as well.
There you go.
It's that European centricity.
And you go. And so we don't like to unpack that, because in the United States we go, oh, you're white, black, or Latino. First of all, you could be Latino/Hispanic. Well, you could be Chicano. And not realizing that if you are what I call Latino/Hispanic, it all depends on what country you're coming from. And so you have white Cubans.
Argentinians ain't the same.
No. And you have white Cubans, you have Afro-Cubans. Yep. You have Dominicans who identify, especially in New York City, more with African Americans than they do whites. Right. But when you go to Texas, depending upon their family in Mexico, are they a white Hispanic, or do they consider themselves to be brown-skinned Latino? Right. Then you talk about California. And so we don't like to deal with the nuance of that.
That takes work. But we're lazy. That's why.
But we actually have to. And so what's happening with this notion of white fear, it's literally how power is being redefined, how money is being redefined. So when you look at right now, all of the fights against diversity, equity, inclusion, what DeSantis is doing in Florida with AP African American studies, you look at the attacks on critical race theory, that is all rooted in we are not going to be in power, so therefore how do we continue to maintain this? How do we push the buttons of white fear that provokes white voters? And it actually worked. When Glenn Youngkin won in Virginia, Terry McCullough, first of all, was a horrible candidate. Okay, he shouldn't have run again. He's already governor. But his numbers were pretty steady from the previous election, but white turnout had increased. And so what I'm constantly saying across the country is for African Americans and Latinos/Hispanics, you have to increase your number of your share. Last election, 71% of all voters were white. 71%. So the reality is when these candidates are running, they're talking to white folks, okay? Right. But the problem is...
Like when they use the word where they're talking to...
working class.
Voters.
Right. Or when they say working class,
Working class,
they talking
yeah.
about white working class. Okay.
Right.
They ain't talking about black or Latino. So, but the things I keep saying to black, especially black folks, is you have to exceed your numbers. We can't be voting at 35, 38, 40, 42%. If we are voting at 60, 65, 70% of our numbers, if Latinos are voting the exact same way, all of a sudden, literally, we sweep elections. Because if you have 500,000, let's just say Texas is a perfect example. You've got 2 million eligible but unregistered Latino voters. Texas is 60% minority. The population of Texas right now is 60% minority, but 60% of the voting folks in Texas are white. So if you're a minority, you literally are not voting your numbers. And so let's just say you take a place and you've got 500,000 African Americans. And let's say 30% of them who are eligible, they vote. Okay, of the 500,000, they all eligible, but 30% vote. All right, that's 150,000. But if 50% vote, that's 250,000. That's an additional 100,000. We didn't get, I'm not saying 60. I'm not saying 70.
50.
I'm saying 50.
Right.
That's an additional 100,000 votes. Warnock beats Herschel Walker by 95,000 in Georgia. That's the election. Biden wins Georgia by 12,000 votes. He barely wins Arizona by less than 20,000 votes. That's the election. If you look at many of these states, literally, if black and Latino voters voting at 50%, you go to 60%, literally, you're sweeping, not winning one or two, you're sweeping the entire slate. So I've been arguing you've got to maximize your numbers. So as you're moving to 2043 and you see demographic shifting, you got to be voting at a much higher rate to offset what white turnout is. And unfortunately, it's not happening. And folks are disengaged. And that's why there has to be a massive, because we always go, we need to vote. Well, first of all, I got to be registered to vote. In order for me to be registered, I got to be enlightened. In order to be enlightened, I got to be educated. So the process starts way earlier to be able to really get people to that particular place.
Well, and then right now, and then factor in the psychology and the Eurocentricity we just talked about, where you have individuals that are allowed to get to this nation the right, let's call it the right way, right? Who are coming from nations that have a Eurocentric point of view, get to America and then want to align with things that are non-black.
Right.
Non-progressive. And so then we have these divisive tactics that are driving people into corners because there's so much emotion and chaos going on at the same time. And especially when you bring up something like Black history, where if you don't see yourself as black, you don't give a fuck.
Right. But the reality is, when you get arrested, they will see you exactly for who. Like you can't.
They don't care what type of black you
are.
You speak Spanish, you speak Arabic, whatever. You black.
You can't say, well, I'm a black immigrant. Yeah, but your ass black, and you about to get treated like black folks too. And look, and this thing goes back. I remember when Roberto Clemente dealt with this when he felt he was sort of in between because he was identifying he was Puerto Rican, but also it was like, yeah, but in America, they saw your ass as black.
You got an afro, bro.
Right. And so then you had people you had African Americans who were like, yo, why aren't you down with us? He's like, well, but I'm not African American. Yeah, but the reality is, you dark skinned in this country. And so we could try to be, oh, well, no, that's not really how this thing works. No, that's exactly how it works. And so it's understanding that. And so, like right now, we have this vicious debate going on. You got a group of African Americans who are anti-immigrant and who are anti-black immigrant. Okay, but here's the problem. Right now in the United States, 10% of black people in the United States are black immigrants. 10%. All right, so you can be anti-immigrant, but that 10% counts.
That's right.
It counts when it comes to the census. It counts with any number of things. And so
what you're talking about is building bridges and building coalitions.
Because at the end of the day, you can't ignore the numbers. And all I'm saying is, look, the numbers ain't changing. White people have stopped having babies. Okay, the white death rate in about 12 states right now is higher than the annual white birth rate. Okay?
And that's why
they ain't catching
fearful.
Up. They ain't, precisely. That was a major part of the abortion battle, because they're looking at numbers, hardcore numbers. And so what I keep saying is, all right, this is our reality. This is where we're moving. Now the question is, how do we now maximize power? How do we take advantage of it? Because my fear is that Black and Latinos by 2043 will be looking like South Africa. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have numbers, but do we have power? Do we have economic power? Do we have political power? And that's the thing that's driving it. And too many people aren't understanding. And then you have the media piece, because mainstream media, white media, won't really deal with this. I have literally had Black hosts of major shows say, Roland, I would love to get you on about my book, but my white producers don't like your title.
White fear. They don't like white fear.
And the crazy thing is, I talk about those very media people in the book. Like, so they literally are practicing what the book is about. I mean, we're talking about major hosts who've called me, and here's the crazy thing. I've sent them stories of this very topic. New York Times has written about it. NPR has written about it. Time has written about it. Axios has written about it. And I'm going, okay, I'm not an outlier here. Here are other sources that laying this thing out. They literally are like,
people, Roland, are often dishonest. And when you're privileged, like many white people, you can do something which is just called ignore. I can shut off the switch because I can move around in a society where I don't even have to address what you're talking about.
The reason why that is dangerous is because this medium is the second most powerful medium in the world. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, whenever there's a coup anywhere in the world, the first thing they always get control of are the guns. Military is always first. Media is always second. Not banks, not any other.
Messaging.
It's always media, because that's how you're able to reach the masses, which is why I tell people, I don't care what station you're on. I don't care what television or radio. I don't care about a podcast. I tell people all the time, you got to respect this. You have to respect the mic, because people are listening, and what you're saying impacts. And so they can go, oh, well, I heard them talking about this here. I heard Laura mention this. I heard Ebro mention this. I heard this person mention this. And so they go, well, they didn't push back, so it must be true. So how media then, either things that we cover, we just choose not to cover, impacts what the audience learns. So when those producers go, no, we're not going to put him on. So what you're doing, but you're talking about DeSantis and DEI, but you don't want me to talk about the topic when what DeSantis is doing is the topic.
Right.
And so when they refuse to talk about the topic, then the audience is walking around clueless, and I don't understand what's going on. So then when they see January 6th, okay, and what was the most basic fundamental thing about January 6th? When Donald Trump complained about losing, he kept mentioning 4 cities: Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Milwaukee.
Black people delivering the election for the Democrats.
That literally was that's what they were pissed about. So I'm like, and then in 2016, it was like, oh, economic anxiety. No, it's not. It was whiteness. Because there was a view of they're getting stuff that we're not getting. What are you talking about? More white people are on welfare than anybody else. More white people are receiving. When Donald Trump gave $25 billion to farmers, that essentially all of it went to white farmers.
And then Joe Biden comes in and tries to do something for black farmers, and white people get upset and they blocking it.
And they sue. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is unfair. We can't apply. They got $25 billion. Black and Latino farmers trying to share 5. But you want that as well. Same thing. And so when media does not want to have the honest discussion, this is what we're facing, this is the root of it, and so why are they scared? Because they're white. Their producers are white. Their executives are white. And so they see it as an indictment upon themselves, and it is, because you don't want to confront the reality. Look, when I do with black people about white validation, Or roll, it's not what it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
White validation is when you are in music. Artists have killed themselves to do what? Crossover.
Mm-hmm.
What's crossover?
Get to a white audience.
Now, why? More money? Mm-hmm. Now you got to ask yourself, okay, wait a minute, hold up. Why is it more money with the white audience? It's because our system has valued white people more than anybody else because of resources. So to give an example, read Brett Pulley's book, The $1 Billion Bet, the unauthorized biography of Bob Johnson and BET. In the book, when Viacom purchased BET, Mel Karmazin and Sumner Redstone is in the book, discovered that BET was charging $1,500 for a 30-second spot, and MTV was charging $8,000 for the same spot. Mel Karmazin goes, oh, this is, BET was undercutting themselves. No, they weren't.
They were getting what they could get.
Precisely. Yeah. It was a black tax. Now, how does that then impact black wealth? Okay. So Bob Johnson and Sheila Johnson sell BET for $3 billion, $2.3 billion, and then $700 billion in debt. So the total amount was, $700 million. The total amount was $3 billion they sold it. Okay. So if BET was getting 4 times less, that means that if BET had gotten its fair share for all those years, that means that when they sold BET, they should not have sold it for $3 billion. Had they got their fair share, they could have sold it for $12 billion.
Right.
Okay, but let me break it down further. Okay, so remember, they sold it for $3 billion. That means that if they were actually gotten their fair share, they could have sold 25% of BET for the same $3 billion and still own the 75.
That's right. And been in and got wealth, more wealth, and been in power and control of messaging.
So by devaluing black consumers, by saying, and that's why the fight that we have right now in terms of black-owned media, when we're going after OMD and IPG and Publicis and Group M and Initiative and Havas.
These are advertising media agencies, Laura.
The agencies,
when I be spazzing out on the agencies by advertising
agencies,
and all that.
And then the companies. Yep. Because they love black folks, Latinos buying their products, but what's the return on investment? So what have they been doing? They've been freezing out African Americans, been freezing out Latinos. Even this whole battle, right? Even you look at
by freezing out, you mean not buying Latino and black media
at all
because they can get their minority mandate by buying iHeartMedia,
or their whole deal is we ain't dealing with y'all,
right?
We just not like we not, and so we can sit here and we're showing the numbers, and I've done meetings with them, and then it's kind of like, Roland, why are you calling us out? Because you're freezing us out. Or what they'll do is they'll say, and this is what I've said. I said, I got no issue Urban One getting its money, Essence, Black Enterprise, Blavity. I said, but everybody has to eat. Pie has to expand. And so, again, that's how the game is being played. But by freezing us out, that's why we can't grow, we can't build, and then that impacts the hiring of jobs. This whole battle that Sue Kim is in with the FCC is a perfect example. In terms of, okay.
And by the way, for the audience, Sue Kim is
Standard General.
Standard General, which owns MediaCo, which owns this radio
station. There you go.
Here.
So, okay, so
we are not owned by iHeart, which is why y'all hear me trashing iHeart all the time.
So here's the whole deal. For us, so I've brokered a partnership deal with Sue Kim if he's able to get the tech and the stations. Well, if you freeze him out of acquiring the stations, then the deal that we brokered can't happen. So by the FCC's decision, so you're limiting a Korean American who's partnering with black-owned media to take advantage of the assets. Because here's the deal: I've never had a white-owned media company say, "Roland, let's partner with your content." Not one. So when you're freezing, so when the FCC is making its move against him, you're now impacting the ability for other smaller media companies, black-owned, to be able to come in, partner, take advantage of their scale. And here's the other piece. If I now partner with Sue Kim and Standard General, When they go to the agencies, and here's the piece, and why people have to understand why partnerships matters. When they now go with scale to the agencies, they go, oh, by the way, we're also here for representing Roland and his Black Star Network. So now all of a sudden, if you want to buy all of their assets, you also have to buy Roland Martin's Black Star Network. Now, when Univision launched, they had it was a news network. I forgot the name of it right now. So they launched it, but then they sold the equity stake to ABC. So what happened? They were in like 16 million homes. When Disney had the equity stake, Disney when cable deals were up, they were like, oh, y'all got ESPN, all our networks. Oh, by the way, y'all got to carry this network. They went from 16 million homes to 48 million homes because they were under the Disney banner.
Well, and going back
that's how the game changes.
Right, but going back to your original conversation, I think it's important for the audience, A, controlling messaging, B, understanding that these big corporations, you said freeze out, ice out, straight up block, smaller media companies that are minority owned, they can't get on the buy.
Nope.
And if you can't get
you
on
can't
the
even
buy,
get in the door.
If you can't get in the convo, which is, we was having this conversation in our group chat, which is the impetus for me being like, yo, we got to dig into this because most people don't want to talk about this. And I talk about it on the air.
Yep, they don't.
People are afraid of the advertising agencies because they obviously advertising is how we pay our bills.
Or they'll say, I remember they had this black website, we were on this chat and they said, yo, Ro, we can't all do like you because, we might not get any money next week. I said, hold up, bro, let me ask you a question. Did you get any money last year? No. I said, did you get any money last quarter? No. I said, did you get any money last month? No. Did you get money last week? No. Did you get money yesterday? No. Did you get any money today? I said, so it's a good bet you're not going to get money tomorrow. I said, the only thing you have is your voice. So when I did a whole 2-hour show on this issue, every agency was hitting my salespeople at Urban Edge Network saying, yo, is he going to name us? Or what is he going to say? And they said, have y'all spent any money? You're probably going to get named.
Yeah.
And they were all freaking out. And so they all freak out when I tag them on social media.
This is what they're going to try to do to you. This is what happens next. What happens next is they hope he goes away.
Not going to happen.
They hope that this time next year, Roland is not still having this conversation and teaching the audience.
But they hope I'm out of business. Well, see, the thing is, so I had one agency. They hit my guys, and so they were trying to figure out who to call to get me to stop. My guy was like, I'm sorry, I'm confused. They was like, yeah, but okay, so we want to reach out to his boss. They said, he don't have one. He owns it.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference when you. So seriously, I said the only way I get canceled, I said, is God. That's the only person above me. And they were like, oh damn, because he's like, no. He owns it. So therefore, he controls his social media. He controls whatever he says. And so, yes, they want me to stop. When I'm demanding accountability of all these agencies. And again, when I sat down to meet with them, I had a meeting with Group M yesterday. And I laid out and I was like, yo, here's the deal. And their deal is, hey, we're meeting our numbers. Why am I pushing accountability? Okay, y'all all say you're meeting y'all numbers, but I ain't seen $1.
But see, stop it.
And I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to demand accountability.
But stop right there, though. So for the audience, meeting your numbers, okay? Which means they have to advertise a certain percentage of their dollars with minority businesses, black, brown, women, multicultural, however they want to frame it. But it's a government mandate. Like it has to happen.
Well, it don't have. First of all, they don't have to. But what happens because you don't have any. You're not being forced to do so, but you have to because the audience could actually rebel. And so it's like, hey, we're seeing, because what used to be mainstream category and multicultural. Now, multicultural is mainstream. So now what you said earlier, now their whole deal is, we could just buy just general market and capture everybody. But the reality
is where the iHearts and the big companies come in. Because if I buy ads with iHeart, I'm getting a black station, I'm getting a this station, I'm getting maybe a Latin targeted station, I'm getting everything I need to get in my bundle. So I don't have to advertise with Roland because I already met my numbers. I don't have to advertise with Ebro in the morning because I already met my numbers by buying with this big group.
Except the deal is we listen to and watch everything but we have a particular interest in terms of our own and how we say it, and so there's a level of loyalty to it. So when Tom Joyner was on, you could say, oh, I'm buying Howard Stern. Yeah, no, but the black audience was trusting Tom Joyner, and it was in the data. When Tom Joyner said, hey, buy this product, boom, that was a change in sales. And so what you're dealing, and so then you have the game, because you have the companies who go, oh no, it's the agencies. Agencies go, no, it's the companies. At the end of the day, it's the company's money. So I've actually had meetings with companies saying, hey, I'm not dealing with your agency.
That's right.
It's you. And the deal is, when I hit,
you tell them what to do.
Precisely. I've literally, listen, I did a deal with a major company. It was a major 6-figure deal. The company said, hey, get with the agency for the purpose of getting paid. Like, I was a paperwork. Hit the agency. Agency asked me a question. All right, fine, I answered the question. Then they asked me another question. So I hit the company and said, yo, what was it? Like, hey, this is our agency. You just have to answer a couple things. Okay, fine. A third question. I said, well, what the hell? We getting vetted again? So I called the company. Guy at the company says, who the hell is Molly? I was like, I don't know. This is your agency. He gets on the phone the next day and goes, and they're like, are y'all aware that he has this segment called Crazy Ass White People? And the guy goes, at the company who was white, he goes, am I on it? He said, the segment is dealing with people who call the cops on black people who are out barbecuing and whatever. He's like, that's what he said. That's what it is. He goes, no, we're doing business with Roland. They were trying to block it because here's what happens with the agencies. The agencies hate when you go to the client. Hate it because you have a direct relationship. So that's like, let's just say,
they try to cut you out of other business.
Let's just say let's just say in our business, okay, the publicists hate when you go to the entertainer because you ain't got to go through them. Okay, I don't go through publicists. I go right to the entertainer. So they hate getting cut out. Okay, it's the same way. And so then I know some agencies that when I say gotten pissed, have tried to block the deal, and the client was like, no, you're doing the deal. So I keep saying to the clients, yo, it's your money. I sent an email yesterday to an agency, and we're familiar with, because I said, hey, I'm coming to New York. I got a meeting with Group M. I got a meeting with publicists. I want to meet with you. And, we're familiar with your offerings. I'm like, no, you're not. I said, I just launched a 24-hour streaming channel. We now added we're going to be on 4 platforms by the end of April. You know nothing about that. Or our new shows coming up. Or this National Juneteenth Festival we're launching. What are you talking about? And so, and again, it's the blow-off. I know what the blow-off looks like. And so I'm going to call it out. And so what I have been saying is, and I've been saying to all of these different agencies, to all of these different companies, all of them saying, listen, we're coming. We're going to be demanding accountability. And I've said, listen, we'll meet, we'll talk, we'll have great conversations, but let me be real clear. I'm also go directly to your clients, because here's the deal. No client wants me going public saying, this is what they're not spending with you. Oh, but you buy 30% of their products. You buy 40% of their products. You buy their shoes, their cars, the soft drinks, the chips and everything like that. But there's no return on investment. And anybody who's going, oh man, but you're not right. I'm sorry, go listen to Dr. King's speech, April 3rd, 1968 at Mason Temple. This is literally not, see, we always play the mountaintop part. No. That's at the bottom of the speech. Go listen to the other it's a total of 43 minutes, 16-second speech where he talks about those who don't do business with us, we don't do business with them. In the speech, he names companies to boycott. He says in the speech to put money in black banks. He says at one point he goes, Jesse, what do you call it? Speaking of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. He says, Jesse called it redistribute the pain. He said the garbage workers are getting the pain. We're not going to redistribute the pain. And so what I am saying to the black consumer, the Latino consumer, stop getting played. Be willing to say, oh, since y'all don't want to advertise
on the outlets where I engage and spend my time,
well then I'm not going to engage your product. And so my whole deal to the agencies, to the companies is, You know what the right thing to do is. And you know the 322 billion is spent every year. Every year, 322 billion. Black-owned media is getting 0.5% out of the 322 billion. The federal government did Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton had a study commission. So the federal government spends $1 billion a year. Black-owned media got 1%. That was 51 million out of the 1 billion. I'm just going to use a perfect example, and I had Mark Morial of the National Urban League on my show on this here. So PepsiCo has a deal with the Urban League to help black-owned restaurants. I totally support it. It's a 5-year, $10 million initiative. Totally support it. 5-year, $10 million. I totally support it. PepsiCo is another initiative where they want to drive $100 million in receipts to black-owned restaurants. Great idea. There's no way you to monitor it because it's not like somebody's walking in with a code so you can't track it. Okay? Let's say PepsiCo's, no one wants to reveal their marketing budget, but our numbers show, let's say they spend $3 billion a year in marketing. If they spend 5% of their budget with black-owned media, that's $150 million a year. Over 5 years, that's $750 million. Now, 5-year, $10 million partnership with the Urban League, totally support. $100 million in receipts over 5 years to black-owned restaurants, $750 million. Which one has a greater impact on Black America? The $750 million. Now imagine that's 5%.
And when you say
that's it.
And when you say impact on Black America, that's specifically money going to
black-owned media, which means those are black owners, which means we can hire more people, we can grow, we can market more, we can hire publicists, we can actually increase our size and now increase our scale. And that's just one company.
And increase our messaging.
All of that. That's
which
just
ultimately is not what they want.
No, that's one company.
Right.
Okay. So imagine PepsiCo does 5%. I'm saying 5%. I'm not saying 8 or 10 or our population number. I'm saying 5. So imagine if PepsiCo, Apple, Clorox,
Coke,
Procter & Gamble, Coke, General Motors,
Microsoft.
Ford, Microsoft, Facebook. I mean, all of these companies that we are over-indexing, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, now go by sector. We can now go, now all of a sudden, again, 750, $1 million. Amazon spending $20 billion annually on marketing. If we did 5% with Amazon every year, it's $1 billion. It's $1 billion. To black-owned media. It's game-changing. And so now what then happens? Now you have a real discussion about black wealth. Now when it comes to what money we now can afford. I said this to somebody said, Roland, they said, if you did $50 million a year, they said if you did $50 million a year in revenue, and let's just say the profit was $20 million. I said, I could take $5 million a year and establish and fund a school of communication at a HBCU. So imagine that's just one person. Now you're talking about game changing. That's what happens when we're frozen out of the dollars. And so the battle that we are in. And we're talking media. Now imagine we have this exact same conversation in legal profession, in the accounting profession, in the in every single profession. We are literally, Black and Latinos are literally being frozen out in every single sector. The numbers are ridiculously low.
And frozen ain't even the term. It really sounds like straight block.
That's exactly what it is in every single sector. So what I've said to our civil rights groups, I've said to the Urban League, the NAACP, Sharpton's National Action Network, Reverend Jackson's Rainbow Push, all the civil rights groups, La Raza, LULAC as well. Don't just sit here and say, we've got $1 million from this company. Okay, if that company if Wells Fargo sponsors the NAACP Image Award, that's great. That's wonderful. But how much money did Black people lose due to racism at Wells Fargo in the home foreclosure crisis? Oh my God. We lost 53% of all Black wealth to the home foreclosure crisis. 53% of all black wealth. That's not all on Wells Fargo. That's all those different banks. But the reality is, okay, fine, they dropped $1 million. All right, well, here's my whole deal. Our civil rights group should be saying, all right, said company, you want to partner with us. That's wonderful. But we have a racial index. Not only who are your black and Latinos on your boards, we want to know contracts, transportation contracts, catering contracts, event planning, PR, audio visual, all that stuff that we know that you're doing. Are you using black vendors? Are you using black-owned vendors? Are you Latino-owned vendors? See, that's how you force the change. Oh, so you want us to give you a stamp of approval. Okay, AT&T. Okay, T-Mobile, Sprint. Okay, Verizon. Again, what are your numbers? We go to meetings. This I'm no lie. We have gone to meetings, and they come into the meeting with the DEI person and the foundation person.
What's DEI stand for?
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Okay.
Which are the individuals with no budget and no staff. No, do you bring the DEI person when Comcast comes in? Do you bring the DEI person when Disney comes in? No, you bring the CMO in. Well, I want to meet with the CMO. Don't bring your foundation person. I don't give a shit about the grants
I'm doing business
that you give. This is
business.
business.
That's right.
Why is the foundation person at the meeting?
This is not grassroots.
That's what we call. So in the 70s, if you read Ellis Coles' book, The Rage of a Privileged Class, in the 70s, those jobs were called VP for Corporate Affairs. VP for Community Affairs. That was the Negro who would go to the black events and hold up the paper checks, the small, big checks, small amounts. Okay, so in the 80s and 90s, that was the the diversity officer, the chief global diversity officer, and then now it's morphed into DEI. Well, guess what happened? 3 years after the death of George Floyd, we have now seen 36% of DEI jobs now being cut. Why? Because it was never initiative, because they had no P&L responsibility. So don't come to me with a DEI person with no budget. I need the CMO at the table. And so what I am saying here is, our spending power is tremendous. We have to have the discipline and operate as a collective to begin to say, no, I'm not satisfied. That wonderful scene from Malcolm X when he says, when Brother Johnson was beaten, he said, call an ambulance. Then the cop says, okay, you got what you want. Break this up. And he says, no, I'm not satisfied. On to the hospital. That has to be our mentality. We can't be satisfied with a crumb and then call it a meal. It's a crumb. And the same thing happens in politics. Next year is an election. Next year, upwards of $10 billion is going to be spent on political advertising. Mm-hmm. I can tell you point blank how they tried to pimp us. I had 2 campaigns come to me last year and say, we want this whole big old plan. We want this, all this sort of stuff they asked for. And we got 25,000. This is exactly what I said. I sent a text. They called my sales guy. He called me and I said, that's what they offered. They want ads. They want me on the ground. They want all this sort of stuff. I said, this was the text that I sent. Fuck that. I said, I will keep my black ass at home. Good luck with your campaign. Yeah. Now, Sinclair
Media.
Conservative Sinclair announced that last year in their earnings call, in 2022, they did $340 million in political advertising on all of their stations. $340 million. These cats were offering me $25,000. And I said, hell no. Now, One came.
Did they come back?
One came back at one came. That was like 25,000 each, and then I said I ain't even accepting that. Then one came back for 75, and I said, all right, that's enough for 4 days. They were like, what? I'm like, I'm sorry, you're spending millions over here. Oh, so you think you're gonna play me small? And that's the case. Look, in the Biden campaign, 2016, 2020, they announced this big $6 million expenditure for black media, the most ever. Now, mind you, the total media buy they announced was $280 million. It was $6, and in the whole,
just for
it
black
was
media.
$6 black, but it was black targeted and black owned. So I'm reading the whole deal, and I see iHeartMedia, I see Complex, I see all of these black targeted, and I go, oh, hold up, what are black owned people? And so I got a problem saying that. First of all, the guy told us, well, I could take $20,000 and give it to 4 black newspapers and they happy. I said, well, that ain't us. And so they came back and they said, well, we'll do 100,000 advertising. I said, no. They said, we'll do 200,000 advertising. I said, no. They said, well, final offer, 300,000. I didn't say yes for 2 weeks. Said yes, signed the paperwork, then publicly blasted them. They were, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm sorry. Y'all thought I was happy getting 300,000. No, because I know the value of my platform, the value of my audience, and y'all need my audience. And I made it clear, unacceptable. Not when you spending $300 million over here or even more, but you're gonna play us small. And see, they're used to us taking the crumb and going, ooh, thank you. No, that has to change. And so right now, look, I know what's gonna get spent next year. Presidential race, U.S. Senate races, congressional races, and they consistently throw small money at us until the last week in October, or like Hillary Clinton's campaign did in 2016, didn't want to spend money on black media, but Friday before the election, phone blows up, they're trying to rush out $1 million out the door. Baby, it's too late. It's too late. Inventory's already been bought up. I went to Ohio on the Sunday before the election. Every break during every commercial was a Clinton commercial on black radio. Baby, it was too late. We told you fools y'all should have been spending that money 6-9 months earlier. And so that's how we get frozen out. Every media company, their budgets for the following year after election are based upon what they made the previous year. They think we should accept small money. No, this is where I need the people listening to understand. Why do y'all think we can't cover certain events? Roland, man, why wasn't black-owned media covering the Tory Lanez trial?
With what budget?
How do you think? I told Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. She said, we come out of our meetings, there's no black-owned media after our CBC meeting. I said, Congresswoman, we can't pay $100,000 for a congressional reporter. I said, we can't do that. I said, we can't. I said, if out of the $1 billion the federal government spends every year on advertising, I said, if I got $2 million out of the $1 billion, I can have 3 reporters hired in 90 days. I can afford to pay them $100,000 each. I said, guys, y'all don't understand. That stuff takes money. And so from the network that I built, the show that I built, my viewers
Roland Martin Unfiltered,
have driven it. They've driven it.
Yeah.
My viewers have given $2 million in the 4.5 years we've operated. Without that, we're not in business because we've been not completely, but for the most part, frozen out a significant amount of money. We have the data, we have the numbers, how we've grown, and so
the engagement,
all of that.
And that's another piece that a lot of times these media agencies and people talk about these metrics, and they're talking about these big, millions and millions of listeners. But in those millions of listeners, viewers, or whatever, how much time are they actually spending?
We went from 9.5
numbers.
We went from 9.5 minutes time spent listening on our YouTube channel in 2021 to 16.5 minutes in 2022. And I'm sitting there going,
it's highly engaged.
What are y'all doing over here? And so that's real, and they don't want to have to pay for that. So our challenge has to, again, this is an economic battle. This is the economic apartheid.
When the piece of
that
it
exists
in there for everybody watching, gotta know. You mentioned, other outlets that also are scrambling for dollars.
Yep.
They know everybody that's black owned is scrambling, so they sprinkle some crumbs and know people gonna cut each other's throat for crumbs.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they're banking on
Yes, they are.
everyone going at each other.
Yes, they are.
Because there's only scraps left.
And that's why right now, so the television upfronts take place. 80% of all the advertising money is spent in the upfronts. So then you have a secondary ad market, which is in September. So really the money that we get is in what's called the scatter market, which is
leftover.
What they have left over. So typically our phone rings in November and December. Hey, we got to spend this before the end of the year. What can we do? And we're like, Where in the hell were y'all earlier this year? And then we talk about the metrics. Then what they'll do is they'll say, then I love this whole brand safety stuff. Well, Roland, your show, Roland Martin Unfiltered, controversial, you do with political stuff. I go, well, we do customized content. I said, we have other shows. We did a deal, and they were like, yeah, we want to buy, okay, but we're not going to buy your show. First of all, that's where the largest numbers are.
And don't let me find out you advertising on Fox either, talking about some controversial content.
There you go. I've done the content analysis. Okay, I'm confused. So you're saying that I'm political or controversial, but I see these ads on Fox. I see these ads on MSNBC. Those are opinion shows. I'm sorry. Explain to me the difference. I need Lilly and Pfizer.
A serious black man.
I need
is controversial. You know where we live.
I need Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly to explain to me, why am I seeing your commercials on these networks? Citibank. I need to know. I saw a Citibank ad on Outnumbered on Fox. They always are giving opinions. Kayleigh McEnany is a co-host of that show, and she was lying from the White House podium. Oh, but y'all can put ads on that show. Oh, but we're controversial. This is the nonsense that we see, and that's what we have to change. And so the thing that I keep just telling the audience is they got to ride with us. So when we say, yo, we're about to go after this company, folks got to ride with us. And to your point about how they want to pick people off, again, that speech King gave April 3rd, 1968, he says about the collective. He says, black people individually are poor. He said, but collectively we represent one of the largest economies in the world. So the same thing for Latinos as well. Folks have to understand their power. They've got to understand that it's not going to change if we're silent, if we are quiet. We have to exert the pressure. And I've said to the agencies, I'm going to deal with y'all, but I've said to the clients, if I got to come after each one of you, I will. If I have to specifically call your name out, and I tell them all the time, don't play the game. Don't come at me with the black targeted crap. No, because that's the game they always want to play. No, I want to know, how much are you spending? And it's real simple. I told one company, I said, listen, we ain't got to sit here and boycott y'all and all of your products. I said, if your market share goes down 1%, a bunch of y'all getting fired. I said 1%. You go from 15 to 14, I said, a bunch of y'all getting fired. I said, y'all want to have that conversation? Now, this is not extortion. This is not a threat. It's very simple. It's simple economics. And this is how the game has to change. We will never grow. We will never achieve scale. We will never have a black-owned media company the size of CNN or any other company if we are consistently frozen out of the money.
And call it a threat, and call it extortion if that's what makes you comfortable. But
it's not even that. It's what I am saying is the exact same thing Dr. King said. There's literally no difference. He said it point blank. He said, those who do business with us will do business with them.
Yeah.
Those who choose not to do business with us, then we are not going to do business with them. That's what, if people honestly want to say that, go read Martin Depp's book on Operation Breadbasket. That's what Operation Breadbasket was. When they went after companies, it was to put black products on the shelves. It was to use black-owned companies. It was to deposit money in black banks. It was an expansive initiative. It wasn't just, go hire some black people, low-level jobs. It was entry-level jobs, junior level, senior level. It was a comprehensive program that Reverend Leon Sullivan out of Philadelphia gave to Dr. King. But that's how the black middle class was able to grow during in the late 60s and the early 70s, because they used a collective power. We're in the exact same situation. I cannot, nor will I be satisfied us getting 0.5%. Not when I know some of these companies, we are 30 to 40% of their market share. That's black alone. That's the numbers. And so we love Nikes. Got it. Nike, how much money, Nike, are you spending on black-owned media? All these companies where we're sitting there flashing their products, how much are you spending? Nike, how much are you spending? Puma, how much are you spending? Converse, Reebok, all these different people. We can just go sector by sector by sector and ask that question. And so folk got to understand this is how we remain broke. This is how our communities remain the way they look when we don't have access to those pools of money. People who fight for reparations, not a problem. But this is existing pools of money.
That's right.
Existing pools of
reparations, a whole
right.
other,
But this is existing money. Like money that's right there.
Yeah.
Not money we got to figure out. No, money that's right there. So the question is, why that's the case?
Yeah.
There's no way we can be silent.
Please don't ever fix your lips to confuse doing business and what we need to do for reparations.
No.
I don't ever want to hear nobody do that.
No,
don't ever fix your lips.
These are existing contracts.
Yeah.
And the money is the money that we're spending.
That's right.
That's what's crazy. Adidas. I want to know, Adidas, where is the money you're spending black-owned media? Mm-hmm. Where are the ads? And don't come to me with, because this is the new one. This is the last point I make. This is the new one. Oh, we have black creatives.
Yeah.
No. See, that's the new game. So the new game is
we're spending money with a black creative.
We're hiring black creatives.
Yeah.
Oh, so what you want is you want black intellectual power to now do your ads. No. Roland wants black creatives. I want ads for black-owned media. I want black caterers. I want black photographers. I want black law firms. I want black accounting firms. It's a 360 degree.
Yeah.
Don't give me a portion of the business. No. I want to know, are we getting
all the vendors?
All of the vendors.
All the vendors.
That's it.
This is Roland Martin. You can check him on YouTube, Unfiltered. Man, I had black Americans in Africa on the list. I had Jackson, Mississippi on the list.
And man, got to come back.
Yep,
Yeah,
you got to come back. We got
Ain't no problem.
The co-opting of the term woke and
we can
definitely break that down.
And these crackers not being able to explain it. You know what I mean? All of that. But the
All
book
right.
right now, White Fear,
How
Roland
the browning of
S.
America is
Martin.
making white folks lose their minds.
And you see it. We see evidence of
Every
it
day.
all the time. Roland Martin, I love you,
I
brother.
appreciate it.
And appreciate your
Thanks
work.
a bunch.
Yeah, it
Thank
is.
you.